Hi everyone, my name is Kieng IV, and this is an introduction to SAS lessons, and this is the 5th lesson of a series of 7 lessons. So you haven't checked out 1 through 4, definitely recommend that you check it out so you can follow along. And in today's lesson, we'll be combining data, which is super important. We're going to be using the data merge step to allow us to pull data from 2 different data sets and combine them into one. And I'm going to show you how you can filter that so you can get to the appropriate level of details that you want to keep in your data. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have SAS 9.4 open, and I'm going to include a link in the description to the data that I'm going to be importing. Obviously, you have to change the path to whatever matches for you. But essentially here I have 2 different data sets. I have the April transactions and employee database Excel documents, and they're both in the same Excel documents, just on different sheets. So I'm going to run that, and then we're going to take a look at the data. So I could run a proc print, but I'm just going to open up the table to view. You're going to see here I have April transactions, has these various card numbers, amounts, transaction dates, codes, etc. And then here on my employees table, I have the first name, last name, card number, employee number, hire date, salary, bonus. And really what I want to do is combine these 2 different data sets. And I'm going to combine them on this card number. But before you can use the data merge step, you actually have to do sort the data. So I'm just gonna write a comment: sort tables by card number. It's very important, or else the merge won't work. And they have to be sorted in the same way, ascending or descending. It doesn't really matter as long as they're sorted in the same manner, or it won't work. So the way you do the sort is use proc sort, and then you could sort the data set yourself, right? So if I go, for example, employee, and it'll just sort the employee table. But oftentimes what I like to do is I like to have an out table, so I'll create a new data set, so I'm not disrupting the how it's sorted originally. So here I'm just gonna go call it employee sort, and I'm gonna sort it by card num, and that's pretty much it. And we're gonna copy that same script here, and then we're gonna replace this with April trans. So if I run those steps here, you'll see here pretty quickly I have two new tables that are sorted by this card num on both sides. So perfect. So that's what we're gonna do our merge on. Okay, so let me just write a comment here: data merge. Right? And then, so what you do here, you're just going to list out your data sets that you're going to be using. So in this case, I'm going to be using, what my new SAS data set was going to be. So it's going to be April employee, something uncreative. And then you're going to merge. And then you don't have to, all you do is list out the table. So here I'm going to go April trans, make sure it's the sorted one. And then employee. Right? And then I'm going to go by card num, since it's sorted by that already, and then I'm going to run it. Oh no, see, I forgot to use the sorted one, and so it gave me an error up here saying that it's not properly sorted. So it read through it when it went through the data set, and you'll see here in this right here, you'll see how it's done in the log. You'll see here there was 281 observations in the April transactions, 200 observations in the work employee one, and 359 observations with 12 variables. So what that indicates to you is that whenever there's more observations than the biggest table, that means there were some unmatched ones. So either there were transactions or records in the April transactions that didn't match with the employee one, or the employee one didn't match with the April transactions, or both, likely both. So, but let's take a look at this table. So here, April employees. Well, you'll see here, for example, it's blank here, which means that there's information on the employees table that's not on the April transaction table. What you'll notice here is that they only keep one card num Your variables have to be the same. If they're not the same, then obviously you have to go and rename it. They also have to be either both characters or both numerics. You can't have a mix of them. That's sometimes what makes merging difficult. And as well, if you can avoid sorting your table, right now these data sets are pretty small, so it doesn't really impact the speed or processing too much. But you can imagine if you have 10 million lines, 50 million lines, if your data is already sorted or is already indexed on the join the field, the variable that you already have, then it can save a bunch of time. So your question may be, for example, what happens if I only want April transactions that match with employees? So that's a good question. So what we're going to do here is you're going to use this in option. So here I'm going to go in. I just like labeling as A, and then in as B. You can obviously make it more useful. You can say like transactions, employees, and then here we're just going to use a subsetting if statement, and we're basically going to say these in statements either have a 1 or a 0, and essentially what they do is they identify whether or not each of these tables contributed to the new row. So in this case, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I'm just going to go A is equal to 1 and B is equal to 1, which means that I'm looking for transactions that were both in the April transactions and employees, so they both contributed to this table. And you're going to take a look at the log and see what's happening here. So you'll see here there's 281 observations, 200 observations here, and then 176 that were read in. That means a bunch of them, about approximately half, were not read in because they weren't matching. So if we take a look here, you'll see here all the information is now held in both tables. Perfect. So if, for example, if I wanted to do the same thing, but I only wanted April let's just call it April no employees. Obviously I can do some outs and other efficiency stuff, but here I'm just going to show you one example here. So if I go April no employees, you'll see that all this no employees information is either blank or all has null values, not necessarily blank. Blank and null is different. And then you'll see if I do the opposite, obviously you can do some out statements. You don't need to do it in this manner. There's some more efficient ways of doing it, but I'm just showing you some examples. It's easier to follow. So here are the employees with no transactions, and you'll see here all these different columns are blank, which is also useful information for you to know. You can obviously take advantage of this, use some investigation, follow up, see if there's any data integrity issues. It could also be the case that these employees had no transactions, and then as well there are transactions from employees that were terminated and are no longer on this employee list for whatever reason. But that's how you take advantage of the in options when you're merging and combining data. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thank you.